Nebensätze. In this lesson, you will learn about subordinated conjunctions and clauses. We talked a little bit about weil in German 1, but this is a more extensive lesson. By definition, a subordinate clause cannot stand by itself. It's not a sentence. Because I'm late. There's a lot of information missing from that sentence if you just say because I'm late. When my mom comes back, well, what's going to happen then? There's information missing. And that we read yesterday. Well, what are you talking about? What did you read yesterday? A subordinate clause is called subordinate because it cannot stand by itself. The most common subordinate conjunctions in German are weil, das, and wenn. We'll get into the question words in a later lesson. Weil means because, das is that, and wenn is when, but in the sense of whenever, not as in like a time. Because for time, you're going to use wann. Wann gehen wir? When are we going? This one, though, is whenever or if. The biggest thing to remember about using a subordinate conjunction is that you're going to change the word order of the sentence. Normally, a sentence goes subject, verb, rest of the sentence. The prepositions obviously have a certain order, but what we're focusing on today is the verb and where it goes. I often like to say that the verb goes second or last, and sometimes it's both. For example, when you use modal verbs. However, when you throw in a subordinate conjunction, the verb's going to get thrown to the end of the sentence, or the end of that phrase, the subordinate phrase. Ich gehe nach Hause, weil es spät ist. The ist is the last word of the sentence. I'm going home because it's late. This is definitely a good comparison in language where German and English are different. Ist is last. Also, if you put the subordinate clause first, the verbs actually go back to back. Weil es spät ist, gehe ich nach Hause. So you're going to have a verb on either side of the comma. I like to kind of word it that way, that you always will see verbs on either side of the comma if you start with a subordinate clause. With modal verbs, the same thing happens. You've got your verb in the second position and then your infinitive last, then a comma, and then your weil clause. Ich muss den Rasen mähen, weil das Gras lang ist. So I'm going to do my modals. Subject, modal, direct object, infinitive, comma, weil, my conjunction, subject, adjective, and then verb goes last. However, if you use the modal in the subordinate clause, it will still go last. So you're going to see the infinitive followed immediately by the modal. Meine Mutter wird sauer, wenn ich den Rasen nicht mähen will. So will, the conjugated working verb of the sentence, goes last. My mom gets angry whenever I don't want to cut the grass. Weil is a very common conjunction. We covered it a little bit in German 1. Here are some examples. Ich bin spät, weil ich spät aufgewacht bin. Ich möchte zu Claudia gehen, weil sie heute Geburtstag hat. Wir müssen morgen Tennis spielen, weil es heute regnet. Note here again, the verb is always last. The conjugated verb. That's a good thing to note. It's the conjugated verb that is always last. Das means that. Two S's. This is important because using das as a single S will cause confusion because that's an article. Ich weiß, dass ich spät bin. I know that I'm late. Sagt, dass wir nach Hause gehen muss. He's saying that we need to go home, or we must go home. Meine Eltern sind glücklich, dass wir den Rasen gemäht haben. My parents are happy that we cut the grass. So you actually see here three different kinds of verbs. You have The first sentence is just present tense. The second sentence has a modal. And the third tense is actually in the past tense. They are happy that we cut the grass. That happened earlier today. Wenn then is whenever or if. Wir spielen Tennis nicht, wenn es regnet. We won't play tennis when it's raining. Er wird sauer, wenn den Rasen mähen muss. Wenn du möchtest, bitte komm mit. So both the examples of when and if are shown here. He gets mad when he has to cut the grass, meaning whenever he has to cut the grass. And if you want, or if you would like to, please come with us. The exercise for this grammar is to combine two sentences using one of the subordinate conjunctions. You will see two sentences that do stand alone, followed by a conjunction. Please rearrange the second sentence after the conjunction to proper word order. Viel Glück und viel Spaß.